Welcome to another episode of Until It's Done, a devoted podcast. I'm your host, Dana Lynn Kaye, and for the first time ever, I am here in the studio alone. I am recording this podcast alone, and I think it actually wasn't planned that way. I was supposed to do a podcast with somebody, and then yesterday I got a text from her saying I have laryngitis, I need to reschedule, and obviously for a podcast that laryngitis is a big no-no. So I understood, and then I sat in my car for a little bit, and I thought okay, do I cancel it? But I decided to take the opportunity to finally do a podcast topic that I knew I eventually wanted to do. I think, it's like one of those things where I just have to rip the Band-Aid off and do it. It's an emotional one for me. It's raw, it's vulnerable. But it is a lot about who I am, why I do what I do. And I'll tell you, all morning I've had this weird, and when I finally made the decision, okay, I'm going to do this podcast. And the podcast is about my emotional eating. It's about my binge eating. It's about my history with probably disordered eating, whatever we want to call it. It's part of my journey, my path to get to what I'm doing today. And it's part of me. I am 43 years old, and I would say I've been battling with this as a part of my life since I was 12. I'd say it started when I hit puberty, and it's been my pain. It's been my battle, and thinking about who would I want on this podcast to talk to about this. There's really no one I want to have a discussion with, as my mom is my best friend, and she's been there along the way and understands my battles. But when you look at people and you kind of look and you see what they look like, and a lot, obviously my business is on social media. You see my pictures, and you see, whatever I post on Instagram or my stories. You're seeing anything that I decide to put out there, and you're seeing a lot of highlights. That's really goes for anybody's Instagram. And I know these days right now, people are choosing to be more vulnerable and put their flaws out and share to let other people know they're not alone. And really that's been my mission. That's been my mission with Devotion Nutrition. But sharing my story is very difficult. It is a painful part of my life, and it's been my struggle. But the more that I unpeel those layers, the more that I show that vulnerability on, say, TikTok or Instagram, when I open up that I struggle, I feel like the people come out. The people who need to hear it, all of a sudden I get these comments thank you for making me feel not alone, or I'm struggling too, and thank you, I'm so glad I found you, and this is, I feel like I'm listening to you talk when I hear what you're going through. And to feel a lot of times it's I don't always talk about it, because behind a lot of these behaviors there can be shame and confusion. A lot of times it's I don't even know why I had the problems that I had, and a lot of times it felt shameful, because it's I didn't want to be in that battle, and I would constantly just just quietly pray to myself, I just need to get out of this hell I'm in. Why do I have this food addiction, or why am I reaching for food? But then why do I care so much about the outcome? Because my battle has been that I use food as my comfort, but I also really care about my fitness and aesthetics, and so the two really clash, because to not feel in control, and to have food be this weakness over you, it just, it's a hard thing to explain. Now, I I don't even know. I think a couple years ago, I did a post. I spoke about all of my stuff very loosely on social media. And finally I decided, like, people have heard me talk about my emotional eating and my binging and all this stuff. And they've heard my story in bits and pieces. And obviously always new people are discovering devotion and me and the story behind it. But I finally wrote a blog post and I put it up on devotion. And we did a newsletter about it. And I wanted it there. I wanted to just get it finally out of my head. I wanted to clear the air and let people just read a little bit about my story. Obviously, I didn't write my entire story, but I'm 43. I've been through a lot of stuff. But I think that post was really powerful. And even, I don't know how many people read it. There's really no way to know. But whatever the case may be, I just felt like, if I could help one person, and really my mission would be to help thousands and thousands and millions of people, but sharing my story. And one of the things that also does is make people at least feel like they're not alone. My journey has felt very alone at a lot of times because people weren't opening up. We didn't have social media when I was going through all this at 12 and then in college and all that. So I did feel really alone, and I did feel shameful, and I didn't know who to open up to, and I didn't want to be judged. But at a young age, I grew up in a family that it wasn't even like I came from a family where food was a big stressor. I don't know why I became so infatuated with food and eating volume amounts of food. I can remember my mom making me sandwiches and packing me a very nice, balanced, healthy lunch. And I just felt like it wasn't enough. It's like I ate my sandwich so quickly and I wanted another one. I can remember like being, as a kid, like obsessed about eating one meal and thinking about the next, and like being excited. Like everything about food excited me. If I was invited to a party, it wasn't about the party. It was about what food were they going to serve. Like everything. And I don't know why. And, food at a young age became a comfort to me. When I felt stressed and when I felt overwhelmed in school, I wasn't the greatest students. School was a struggle for me. I don't know why. I didn't really comprehend things. I didn't learn the way like the average kid learned. I knew I wasn't stupid, but I also was like, I'm not absorbing things, and it became stressful for me. And food became an escape. Like I always felt like, okay, well, everybody needs to eat. You need to eat. Like it, and it didn't look weird if I was snacking or eating, or, if I was ahead, I'm hungry. But food just became something where if I felt uncomfortable, I would turn to food. And if I felt alone, because I didn't have a ton of friends growing up, and kids weren't always very nice to me, and I wasn't in any cliques. I wasn't, like this super popular girl. So I felt alone a lot, and food was there for me. Food was my comfort, and food felt fun. And so, food was like something that, and for some reason, not only just food, but like food and volume. Like I wanted to eat like big amounts of food, and I wanted to feel full. And I don't know why. It was just a comfort to me. And this went on through high school. But in high school, I caught the fitness bug, and I really wanted to look good and fit. And yet here I was still with my old buddy food, always being always kind of like, dangling there, like tantalizing me. I just, it's like I wanted to work out. I wanted to be fit. I wanted all these. I wanted. And then it was like food was was a weakness. And so in this blog, and which I'm actually I'm going to read an excerpt because, it's there and it's written very well. So I said, as I blossomed into a young woman, I started to care about how I looked in my clothes, and I noticed how my body compared to other girls. Now, I was always like kind of like a thicker girl. I wasn't heavy. I actually probably had a really nice build, but I just felt like maybe I matured a little sooner. I don't really know. I didn't have that body that would ever be skinny, but I caught the bug for fitness and bodybuilding around 17. I wanted to look the part too, like the women in the health and fitness magazines. This is when the world of dieting and exercise took a whole new meaning. I had already been athletic since I was 12, but this was another level. Without a ton of knowledge about dieting available in 1997, I would try to eat like the suggested diets in the magazine. These diets were often super low calories and consisted of a lot of chicken and broccoli and other bland foods. I got into doing cardio and lifting weights. The pressure of college and life, I was headed to Miami. I went to University of Miami. We're growing stronger. I could diet for days, but after a few days of pretty restrictive dieting. Now, just to be clear, I never struggled with anorexia. I never let myself get hungry. I was not the type to starve myself ever. My problem was not restriction. In fact, being hungry is very uncomfortable for me. I could diet for days, but after a few days of a pretty restrictive diet, I would turn to my old reliable friend, food. I wouldn't just eat a little something to take the edge off, but I would indulge in super large portions of food while convincing myself I deserved it. After all, I exercised hard all week, and we need food to survive. After consuming massive quantities of food, I felt awful, so of course I would hit my diet again and training and cardio even harder. College schoolwork was equally as stressful for me, so after a few days, I was binging and indulging again. Most of the time, it didn't appear like a binge. It would be big meals with friends after I taught spinning classes and large portions of sweets that I craved that stuffed me to the point of discomfort. This cycle went on for years. Weight was always my battle because this type of emotional and binge eating cycle never truly allowed me to lose weight. As a young woman, I lacked the emotional maturity or education that came with what was happening. So the cycle continued because it was all I knew. I described it like a horrible roller coaster ride I couldn't escape. I was constantly trying to lose weight, and then it was like I was self-sabotaging. So I would try to lose the weight, and I would stick on my plan, my diet. And then I would work out, I would do my cardio, I would do all the things, and I'd feel so proud of myself. And then I'd finally get so hungry and so tired, and then I'd think, okay, I deserved it, and I would reward myself with going out with my friends. And then when I say I'm an emotional eater doesn't only just mean sad emotions or stressed emotions. I was emotional, like if I was happy and I was being social, and I would just eat and I would eat and I would eat and I would be like, YOLO, have fun. And I would, again, eat now without care. And I wouldn't even, think about like what my goals were at that point. I was just being, and then here I am kind of sabotaging all of my hard work, my goal, like everything. And then the cycle would begin again because the next day I'd feel shame of how I ate. And then I would get back on the diet and I get back to my cardio and get back to the gym. And like while other kids in Miami were partying and going out and having fun, I was like, no, I have to wake up early. I need to go to the gym. I need to lift weights. I need to teach spinning class, and I need to prep my food, and I need to get back at it because I was so upset with myself on how did I let myself go out and eat all this food and do all this stuff just to ruin all the hard work. So like I really never lost weight. I just stayed this like thicker girl all through college. And, through college, freshman year, and look, it's not like I was in a sorority. I was a beautiful young girl. Like I dressed well. I had a great personality. It wasn't like, I was like trying to hide away or whatever. Like, it wasn't, like I felt like not worthy. It was just I struggled with my food. And freshman year in college, actually, I met a guy who was also a freshman, and he was from Texas, and he was a University of Miami football player. And for 4 years, he was starting strong side linebacker for University of Miami. He was never redshirted. He was a really good player, and I thought he was the cutest thing ever. And we started dating, and he liked me. And it was great because even though I felt like I was like a little thicker or whatever, he loved that. And, he was a big football player, like 6'2", I think like 235 pounds. And so I was like, oh, like, this is good. Like I felt right. But, you know, we were in college and we dated, and it was like up and down. And like, that whole relationship was, you know, like, it would be so good when it was good. And then it was like off and on. And it was rough. It was, you know, because we kind of knew we wanted to be together, but then we were like, no, we're not going to be together. And so the two of us constantly battled with that. And then I wrote, by the time I turned 21, I finally had no choice but to face my demons. I was a senior at the University of Miami, and my parents announced after 25 years of marriage, they were getting a divorce. My parents' divorce was not pretty. It was a very, very, very ugly divorce. It was very hard on my family. You know, as a 21-year-old and already like going through a lot myself, the divorce was hard, and their divorce lasted for years and years and years, and it was not nice. It was very ugly. Their divorce was extremely stressful and far from civil. I turned to food for comfort. The dog I got in first grade that I brought to college with me needed to be put to sleep. I was feeling pretty sad about that, so I turned to food. A few nights after Valentine's Day, the guy I had been dating since freshman year, the football player, his name was Chris Campbell, he was killed in a car accident driving to my house. I wasn't home. I had a message on my answering machine from Chris moments before he died. It was raining, and he was on his way to my house from Coconut Grove. The guys were all partying. They were getting ready for the combine, and we had just finished. I think we won the national championship or something that year. And I wasn't there. I went somewhere with my friend or something. I was up at my mom's house in Delray, and Chris called me from the cell phone, and he was trying to get in touch with me. And when I didn't answer the phone, he made a U-turn. He left a message with the message that I got, and I think it was around like 4 a.m. or something, or like 3:50 something. And so he made a quick U-turn. And in Miami, there are those huge banyan trees. And Chris's car, the tires were bald. It was an old Corolla, and the car slid, and it hit a huge banyan tree on the side. And it was crazy because Chris was like this thick linebacker with this huge, thick neck and big hands and everything. And his neck snapped instantly. And so he was just, he passed away right then. And so, you know, I was completely shattered. I had never had to deal with the sudden death of someone that close to me. I used food to fill the void in my heart and ease my pain. I can remember sitting in bed in the dark after his funeral, and my bed was covered in snack foods when the phone rang. It was a childhood friend calling to tell me my best friend since kindergarten was out running and hit by a truck. She was airlifted and fighting for her life. My world felt so dark and out of control. I didn't turn to alcohol or drugs to cope. But once again, I turned to food. At this point, I honestly didn't even enjoy the food or taste the food. The food was self-medication. In 1 month, I gained 30 pounds. I didn't know how else to ease my pain and handle my emotions. Food was my friend and comfort. But this was no longer a way to live. So, Jeannie is was my best friend from kindergarten. And she was hit by a truck like right after Chris passed away. And I just felt like, oh my God, everything just kept hitting me and like these people that I loved and cared about. And so I used food, and I was eating and not even tasting the food. I just wanted to eat and eat and eat. And like, I just wanted the pain to go away. And I was trying to like suffocate the pain with food. I remembered like going in and like pretending I was buying food for like a lot of people because I was like so ashamed. But like I just needed to get like large quantities of food back to my house in Miami just so that I could sit there and eat. And like I didn't feel like that. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I just wanted to eat. And like that didn't help. And sometimes I would fill myself to the point of such discomfort that I could throw up, but then I would want to start over again because then that empty feeling was back. So I wanted to fill myself back up again. And it wasn't like, I didn't see the end. And every time I went out to get food, I'd say, Dana, this is the last time you're doing this. You're going to go out, you're going to get the food, and we're done. We're done. And then I would do it again because those feelings would come back and the emptiness would come back and the sadness would come back. And so this went on for a little while. And finally I had gained a lot of weight. Like I said, like 30 pounds in just 1 month. And my mom had flown down to Florida and I was with her and I don't even remember where we were staying, but I remember I kept Googling and looking up like what I was doing. And I was like trying to find like, is this an eating disorder? Like what am I doing? Like I need help. I know I need help. And I was so ashamed and I was so nervous to tell my mom. And so I remember like finding information about like eating disorders or whatever. And I brought it to my mom. I printed it out and I brought it to my parents. And I don't remember if I guess maybe not my parents, but really my mom. And I remember going to my mom and I was like, Mom, I think this is me. And I like read her all the things that I was going through and the way that they described an eating disorders or, binge eating disorder or a food addiction. And I said, I think this is me. And I said, I need help. Please help me. And so my mom, we started researching, and actually one of my best friends from college, her sister had struggled with an eating disorder. She was actually like the opposite of me. I think she had anorexia or something. And she said, my sister went here and I think it would be really great for you. So I said, Mom, there's a place down here in South Florida and I really would like to go. And so we called and I don't think they had a bed available, but I said, please put me on the waiting list. And I just hung out with my mom until they finally called one day and said, okay, we have a bed available. Let's get Dana in here. So I was admitted. The place was called Renfrew, and it was for people with eating disorders, and they also had like alcoholics and Narcotic Anonymous, and like because the thing is like I was like addicted to food. I was using it as my drug, and really like when you think about it, when you think about how I was using food, it's no different than how an alcoholic uses alcohol or a drug addict uses drugs. But like for me, I feel, and this is just my opinion, that food addiction is so much harder because we need to eat to live. And so every time, it's like, what am I supposed to cold turkey? Am I supposed to go to a place where I'm not eating? Like it's not like with drugs and alcohol, like you can detox and then you can stay away from the alcohol and you can not be near drugs and you can live without having those things. But with food, I was like, oh my God, I have to go the rest of my life with food and temptations and holidays and events and all the things and trying to be social and not getting the anxiety that like I'm trying to, not, fall into the trap. And then here I am again in the trap because food couldn't go away. So I went to Renfrew and I wrote therapy sessions were scheduled from the time I woke up until the time I went to sleep. I showed up at my first session and the first thing the therapist said to me was, Dana, it's not about the food. I looked straight at her and said, what are you talking about? Yes, it is. It's about the food. I love food. I need food. And this is when I discovered I was an emotional eater and that I was a binge eater and that I was addicted to food or something. Like, because they kept telling me it's not about the food. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, yes, it is. I look forward to food. I love food, and they were like, no, like you're using food like to self-medicate for underlying issues and stuff that's going on. So, the truth is we can't escape food, but we can learn to recognize when we're abusing food. Through therapy, I started to realize I was using food to fill the void. And feeling stress and pain and discomfort. It wasn't about the food. Of course, I still love food and enjoy how food plays roles in our lives, but food can't control our lives, and it's not going to solve our problems. Being thin and lean didn't solve my problems either. You know what solved my problems? Addressing them, facing them, handling them. I had to learn to recognize the times I felt stress and have the tools in my toolbox to cope with stress without the use of food. So I stayed at Renfrew for 30 days, and I took my time there like so serious. There were many people there that battled to be there. They didn't want it. They weren't ready to give up their addictions. They had bad attitudes. When I was there was a woman who was the mother of a baby, and her husband would come in and he was begging her to get better. She had anorexia, and she died in her bed while I was there. I mean, it was a heartbreaker. It was an eye opener that if I didn't get help, like I did not know the road I was going to go. I didn't know how this was going to end well. And so I took my recovery very seriously, and we had therapy sessions from like 6 a.m. to like 10 p.m. And it was designed like a schedule, like you were in school, and we all had a schedule, and then we met with different therapists, and we did all different kinds of therapy, even art therapy, everything. And I'm so blessed I was able to do this. I know a lot of people aren't able to do stuff like this, and like the fact that I was, and that they had room for me, it was like I looked at it like, this is a blessing. I need to go. I need to take this serious. And I also knew like I didn't want to live the rest of my life like that. I felt like I was in hell. I felt like I was on this wild, wacky roller coaster ride that I couldn't get off. I was like, please get me off of this. I can't live like this. So I took that experience very seriously. And after I left Renfrew, I felt like a new woman, but I also knew, like, they told me, they're like, look, you're always in recovery, and you're always going to have it. It's going to be like a box up here. It is, it's not like poof, it all goes away. It's like somebody who's an alcoholic. They're always there. Like, I'm in recovery. I've been sober for X. Now, I haven't counted down the days that I've been sober from food. I don't even know how you do that because I eat food every day. But when I left there, I had different tools, and I had my rebounds. I definitely had rebounds. I still, but the rebounds every time, it's like now I recognize what was going on, and I would learn every time I would fall, every time I would screw up, every time, I would start to go back to old habits. It felt uncomfortable, but like I'd have to go back to the tools that I learned in therapy while I was there, and feel those emotions and address the things that were going on. And, I was 21. So now this is like, 21 years ago, 22. I'm 43 now, so whatever the math is. And so this past week, I had a really rough week, and I have lots of them. I have lots of rough weeks. I mean, through my life now, I've taken on a lot of challenges. I've been through a divorce. I was in a marriage for 10 years that emotionally, I wasn't abused or anything, but it wasn't the right marriage. It wasn't the right fit. And that can just take a toll, and then going through a divorce is really emotional, and, still dealing with my parents all these years. It's not like everything was hunky dory immediately. My parents, to this day, it's, their divorce really took a toll on our family and the way everything went down. And so, my relationship with my father is extremely weird and hasn't been right. And we've tried to fix it. And, every time we've had fallouts or things happen, or the way that, we communicate can be weird, and it can take, really wear on me and make me feel sad or bad about myself. Cause this is my dad. Like all I ever wanted was to like have a nice relationship with him and make him proud and all those classic things you want with your dad. But, but to keep expecting that he's going to be the dad that I think that he's going to be, and then feeling let down, that's actually that's a little bit of insanity on my part. But it takes a toll on me because I always expect the best, and I have a big heart, and I love, and I forgive, and I want to just move ahead, and that isn't always the case, and sometimes those emotions, those things hurt, and so I've had this past week, just like looks like most people's weeks. I have a 14-year-old son, and he's been giving me a run for my money, and it was stressful, and I get stressed with my business, with Devotion Nutrition. It's amazing that we finally took a turn, and I invented this whole line after I finally got a hold of my eating, and I also knew I needed to find a solution for the fact that, look, my love of food is never going to go away. And my sweet tooth isn't going to go away. And my love for fitness and being fit and feeling great isn't going to go away. So Devotion Nutrition was my answer. And I found that solution, and it was helping me. It was helping me with cravings. It was helping me finally be able to have my shake and eat it too, or have my cake and eat it too. I was able to feel satisfied because a lot of times when I would do these diets that were I just felt deprived, and I didn't really want to eat the chocolate cake. I did, obviously, but I knew it would come with this guilty, weird feeling. But with Devotion Nutrition and brownie batter and being able to bake with it, it was oh my God, I could eat brownie batter every day of my life. And I don't have to feel the guilt. It's protein and it's delicious. And yet I'm still, it was this whole, oh my God, my whole world felt right with this brand and with this product. And I was as we were working on it, because the thing is I would use things along my journey for myself at my parents' company, because my parents own a flavoring company, and I developed the protein in their labs. And so as I was using stuff, and it was helping me, I'm oh my God, this could help so many other people, because I'm not the only one out there that struggles with food. And I'm not the only one out there that feels deprived and then falls off the wagon and then feels at night they just want their dessert and they just want something chocolatey, or they want that comfort food. I don't think as humans there's anything wrong with wanting the comfort foods, with wanting to feel like you enjoy what you're eating. But unfortunately, so many of those foods are really calorically dense, and we do it too much. We see it in America. And if every day you're enjoying everything that you love and you're eating the chocolate and you're having the day, okay, well, now we're talking about an obesity problem. And now we're talking about people who are all, with health problems, and they're walking around really overweight, and they're walking around unhealthy, and they're walking around not feeling good about themselves. And then they're on the constant, battle. And then it's a vicious cycle, because then they're yo-yo dieting because they want to feel better. And then they're trying, and then they're falling off. So Devotion was my answer to it's you don't have to, look, I don't cut everything out, and I still enjoy the things, but I can enjoy them in the moderation that I need. And then Devotion is there to make me feel yes, I can have that Starbucks hack coffee, and I can make the waffles and the pancakes and the ice cream and all the things, and they do help me feel satisfied. And then I can use my tools for my emotional eating. Now with my emotional eating, when I was feeling emotional this week with my son, and really just sad and hurt, I want the best for him, and 14 is a rough age, and we went through a little bit. Luckily last night we had an amazing talk, and he's really going to turn a leaf, and he's such a great kid, and he hears me, and he's smart, and I knew we were going to have to probably go through some rough times, and my girls aren't even teenagers yet, and so I'm Dana, got to be ready for battle. But the stress hit me and the emotions hit me, and now, instead of going into my pantry immediately, I will grab the dog leash and I'll say Jagger, let's go for a walk, let's think this through, let's have a cry. Let's have a yell. Let's have a, let's get it out. Let's call mom or Kelly or anyone who I feel I can confide in, and they understand, and they'll just let me talk. And I'll get it out and I'll go for a walk and I will write things down and I'll just get the emotions out and, use the tools that I learned when I was at Renfrew. Not stay in my kitchen and not and it's a muscle that you have to keep working. It takes a lot for me, to stop the vicious cycle of getting in my car and driving to go get food or going out to eat and ordering, all this stuff that I knew I shouldn't be eating, but I didn't care. I just wanted to eat it. And also knowing my triggers. I have trigger foods. I have foods that are dangerous for me. Nut butter is dangerous. I don't have it in my house. I have to eat my almonds where I count my almonds. I can't eat peanut butter. I can't eat almond butter because it's like a Pandora's box. It's like once it's open, I'm like, oh my God, I can't control it. Popcorn is tough for me. Salty chips, sweet things. I mean, whenever I realize that those things, it's not that it's an eating disorder, but it's just me knowing my limits because I'm human. And I know that they're things that I really love. And when my daughter, we go to Costco and my daughter wants to always buy that huge bag of that kettle corn popcorn. You guys probably know the one I'm talking about. It's so freaking good. Costco sells like a 5-pound bag. I can polish off that 5-pound bag. And I have before. And I probably would again if it was in my house. And it's come up a few times. And a few times we've gone to Costco recently, and she asked me if we could get it. And I was like, Dana, you know what? You're strong enough. You can do it. And I said yes. And for a few days, I stayed away from it, and she ate it, and the bag was open. And because I'm like, I'm not going to deprive my kids, and none of them have these issues. Why should I make them suffer? And I'm like, Dana, you're strong enough. You're focused, you're determined. Look what you've accomplished now. Look how far you've come. And so I'd be like, I'm fine. And then something happens, or my little voice in my head says, oh, Dana, you deserve it. You should just do it. And I end up opening the bag and then tasting it or saying, oh, well, I'm just going to have a taste. And before I know it, I've finished the entire bag. It's like I can't stop. And then in my head, I'm saying, oh, it's fine. You'll be fine. You'll work it off later. You know how to get it off. You know how to do this. You know how to do that. And then once I start eating that, and then I think whatever. I already just ate freaking 2 pounds of popcorn. Oh, I'll just eat this. I'll eat something else in the pantry. And then, oh God. And it just snowballs. And it's like that voice in my head, just I just say, oh, whatever. And so it's knowing my limits. It's knowing my boundaries. It's knowing what I can handle and what I can't and being realistic with myself. And that's just being truthful. It's not, I don't think that that's a weakness. I think it's just being real and saying look, if sometimes Greg says oh, well, let's go out to eat. And if I'm feeling really okay and strong and good, and he says, let's go do Mexican. Now, Mexican's a weakness for me. I freaking love it. I will eat 12 baskets of chips. I will, eat everything on my plate. I'm a clean plate eater. I don't leave stuff. I'm not the type to be like, oh, I'm full, and I put my fork down. I'm never full. That's my problem. And so if I'm feeling good that I can make good choices and decisions, then yes, I can be trusted at any type of restaurant. But if I'm in a spot where I'm like, look, I can't go tonight. If I know they're going to put down the chips, and I'm going to eat every chip in that basket, and they're going to keep bringing it, and I'm not going to say no. And I don't trust myself with what I'm going to order tonight. I kind of have to know where my mental is and how I'm feeling. And I even say in this blog that I wrote, there are times that I've taken my kids to Cheesecake Factory and I look on the menu and I'm like, there's nothing on this menu right now that is safe for me to start eating, because it will just open the floodgates. And a lot of times when you go out to eat, and now that they put the calories on the menu, it's eye-opening. It can be one entree, it could be what I would eat almost in a day. And so all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh. And then I'm like, I can't even bring myself to eat like that. I'm going to have this weird guilt and this weird feel I can't, I don't. So I still battle all the time. And last week I did emotional eat over the stress from my son and the stress from I didn't work out. Sometimes work gets so busy. I get too tired. I get exhausted from traveling and all the stuff. And little old habits and things will sneak back, and I'll do things that I shouldn't do, but I do them. And then I have to, wake up the next morning and pick myself back up and get back on the wagon and get back focused and get back, to my lifestyle, which is that devotion lifestyle I talk about, which is like doing my exercise and going for my walk and eating my healthy foods that I've already prepared and, working that every day, every single day, and then not giving myself grace and knowing that I'm not perfect, knowing that I'm human, I'm going to fall off, I'm going to make mistakes. And here I am at 43, still falling off, still calling my mom. Luckily they're not these all out binges like they used to be years ago. Luckily I don't find that I'm addicted to food anymore. Luckily, it's been a work in progress for a lot of years. But now it's like I can go out to eat and order something healthy, and I look at food much differently. And I set the example for my children of how I want them to approach food and all of that. And it's a part of me, and it's my mission to continue to tell my story and help others and know that they're not alone. And every time like something would happen with devotion where I would get like nervous that the company might not make it, because, it's been a battle for almost 8 years. We're almost 8 years old now. And I would get nervous not because the product will go away for me. I mean, I could still make devotion pretty, but like I know now I help thousands of people, and I don't want to not be doing that. Like, I feel like that was my calling. I left a cushy job at my parents' company to go out on my own with these products, because it was like, that was my calling. My calling was like, look, if I used to like almost beg to God, like if I can make it through my storm, like let me help others, like let me tell my story, like let me do something on a big scale. And I'd opted not to be a coach or a trainer because I felt like my scale couldn't be big enough. But with devotion, I mean, I could literally help millions and millions of people and have a platform to help millions of people. And so that's my goal, is to be able to have this like tool that helps people, because I feel like a lot of people struggle, and they're probably quiet about it, and they probably feel plenty of shame. But, that was my calling, and that's been my life's work the last, 8 years since I, developed these products, and I've been able to, share what I do with them and how they've helped me. And now with this podcast, I'm able to tell my story and, and the meaning behind devotion, because it's pretty powerful. It's not just a protein powder, it's an answer, and it's hope, and it's, it's been a game changer for me. I owe a lot to devotion, because it really did bring it all together for me, and it makes me feel like, I can move forward in a healthy manner. So, I really, if you're listening and you relate, I mean, I hope that you share this, and I hope that you share the message and share it, to your friends, or send the link to listen to this, and know that you can come out the other side, and know that your life doesn't have to feel like this roller coaster from hell, and that you don't have to feel like you're like a slave to like food and being on a diet, and, not being able to like live your best life and feeling uncomfortable in your own skin. I'm right today now, I'm back not feeling comfortable in my own skin right now. Everything's a little tight. Everything feels a little uncomfortable. My weight is up, maybe 6 to 8 pounds. And my mom's like, well, a lot of it's water. And I'm like, yeah, but maybe some of it isn't, maybe some of it is, but whatever the case may be, I'm uncomfortable again. And I'm trying not to like be hard on myself. I'm trying to just be like, okay, Dana, we've been here before. It's okay. Nothing horrible happened. Let's get back on track. I picked myself back up. I prepped my food. I'm making the good choices. I'm drinking my water. I'm going for my walks. I'm doing my cardio. Like, I'm just like back on track. I'm lifting my weights. I have to just do all the healthy things that I know I should be doing for myself and my body and my mind. I'm even doing some sound healing things with Siobhan Dannon, who I've had on the show, and just mind, body, and soul. Like I just feel like my work here isn't done. I haven't, I need to really continue to evolve into the person I was meant to be, and then hopefully, that I can help others, and then also be like a great example to my children, because at the end of the day, they're the next generation, and right now they're exposed to a lot of stuff out there. It's a scary world now. I mean, I know that there was no social media when I was going through this, but now I'm like, maybe that was better than what there is today, because sometimes social media, I'm like, oh boy. But, we just deal with the hand that we're dealt. So anyway, thank you so much for listening to this episode. I would love to hear your stories. I'm hoping in the future Devotion can have things like retreats and seminars and things like that, where people can come together. And I know it's, at the end of the day, it's like, I know there are so many things in life. I mean, right now my kids and I are running a 5K that Devotion is sponsoring for foster children. And we're going to be doing Soldier Rush, that we're going to be raising money for, our the military, and like that. We do so many meaningful things, but I think this is a very important, meaningful topic as well, because I think on a personal level, a lot of people do struggle, and it should be talked about, and we should bring awareness. So thank you for listening to my story, and join in for the next episode. I'm Dana Lynn Kaye, and this is Until It's Done, a Devoted podcast.